Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. We've got the Fast Eddie Spot Hogg XL. Okay, Spot Hogg Fast Eddie XL. Whatever. Does not come with a light, but I did transfer the light from my other site onto this one because this one has dimmer control on it and it goes pretty darn bright too. Let's see if I can crank that up for you. So you can have this either way. You can have it start out dim or start out bright all the way too. It's kind of your option on that one. Anyways, when I got this from the archery place, he actually put a second white mark on here so that this way I don't get confused either. Anyways, so I finally picked up my sight yesterday, and we have it dialed at 20 yards right now. He has a 20-yard indoor lane, which is fantastic. No wind to interrupt you. You can actually get dead bullseyes over and over. So that's kind of nice. So at least now we know our windage is set and our elevation is perfectly set right now for 20 yards. Now I got to put on that sight tape and start calibrating this thing next. And then once I figure out which one I need out of the whole pile of them, then I can take that one, take your sight tape off, and put on the one that's going to be on here in the end. But it has to be calibrated between 20 to 60 yards. And they do give you 3 of those tapes to work with. You may be able to use your original. Who knows? If you ever needed to recalibrate again. But make sure you definitely do it right the first time. And then you should be good to go, right? And there's 2 markers on this one here as well. So whatever, like the very front tip, that's your green pin. And then the red pin down below, that's going to be your second marker, and that's going to be the yardage that's automatically at once you get this thing calibrated. But if you wanted to, from what I understand, you can just stick with your green pin if you want for everything, and that's fine, but it's kind of your thing, right? Anyway, it's toolless as far as once you have things completely set up and you've got this thing, your windage is fine, your elevation is good. Once all that is all put together properly and dialed in, then it becomes toolless after that as far as windage and elevation. So if you need to make a windage adjustment or elevation or both because maybe you switch to a different arrow, well, that means redialing in windage and elevation, okay? Because not every arrow weight is going to use the same windage and elevation, obviously, because of weights, right? Lighter is going to be, a much faster, much higher POI, and that can throw things left or right as well, etc. So I am only going to be using 400 spine arrows in this bow at 400 grain, and of course that includes the tip, whether it's a field tip or a broadhead. I'm using 100 grain broadheads. There's a lot of stuff and information out there. We're going to talk about in another video though, and why I've decided to go with this particular setup for target shooting and for hunting only with a 100 grain broadhead. But anyways, I do not want to think about how much money I have into this bow right now between the sight, which was $350. I got a steel on the bow for $250. That was a steal. Then you got the quiver, my whisker biscuit, and of course my Hoyt stabilizer. And all the Easton arrows I've been buying. It's like, oh my gosh. I really don't want to know how much I got into this, but I already know. It's a lot just for what's sitting right here. But worth every penny, I think, for the XL so far. I'm pretty impressed with this from a lot of videos I've watched. Let me go put this thing up on the wall, okay? So, I've been working with different sights, 4-pin sights and 3-pin sights. This is the sight that I took off, which came with my bow. It's a Trophy Ridge. I have no idea what model, but it's a Trophy Ridge. The next size up from this would be the Fatal 4, which I have on my Stinger. But anyway, one thing you'll notice was missing from there was the knob. They give you a big Allen screw so that if you want to still be able to use your quiver and your bow, you won't be able to use the quick release knob. So they give you a set screw instead that you use. And we've set the distance where it should still fit fine in my bow case. If not, I'm going to buy a bow bag because this thing is already set up the way it is. I don't want to mess with it. And that kind of a sight works the same way as a T-bar for in and outs. It's going to affect things, right? So I like it where it is. I'm leaving it where it is. And it looks mean and nasty. And it also works perfect. We spent, well, let's just say we kept them open past closing time last night, getting this thing sighted in for 20 yards. But we finally got the bullseyes dead on. And it's like, oh, thankfully. But we also had to drop my bow weight down. Turned out I was actually at 60 pounds. He verified it, and it's like, okay, so something's out. It's probably the way I'm pulling with my scale here, which is digital, or something. But either way, he verified we're at 60, and it's like, now I know why I couldn't do so many shots at the tournament the other day. I'm like, you know? And so yeah, I overestimated somewhere. So we set it to 52, and at 52 I can hold it, and I can just go, nope, and it doesn't even bother me, which is great. Besides, I don't need 40-pound of draw weight for deer hunting anyway, so 52, little overkill, but I like it, okay? Now, as far as the sight goes, I'm going to read you a little bit of info off the little thing here they give us. Micro-adjustable second and third axis. There's a lot of setup, by the way, to putting this thing together. It's interesting, let me tell you. Coarse horizontal and vertical adjustments, toolless adjustment, silent quick release lock for windage knob, for yardage knob, sorry. Hard HRD technology, no bushings, no slop, no buzz, spreads out sight marks, or it should say spread out sight marks, I don't know. Large, easy to use yardage knob, definitely. Solid 60-61 aluminum construction. That's like aircraft grade aluminum. 6-inch dovetail sight bar with quick release bow mount. Now that's only quick release for removing it if you're using the knob. But if you use the knob, you ain't gonna be putting no quiver on your bow. And I wanted my quiver. I spent a lot of money on that thing. I want it on there. Anyhow, so there's not much when you open the thing. Nothing in there. But they do give you some instructions and whatnot. They tell you all about the features of the thing. Installation site up, setting it up, sighting it in. I got to read through this stuff pretty carefully because, yep, can't afford to make any mistakes. Yeah, they give some paperwork. The stickers are in the other room that I'm going to need. My wife's going to be cutting out the sighting tape for me first. And they give you 3 of them, which is nice. And you can always buy more if you need them down the road. But anyway, this was $350 Canadian, and it's the left-hand model. And it's clearly marked on the pack here, left-hand version. So even your bubble or your level is on the bottom where it's most visible for you. So I would say if you're a left-handed shooter, buy the left-handed model. This way everything's oriented the way you need it. And if you're a right-handed shooter, obviously you buy the right-handed model. Now that's the 2-pin version, by the way. So you've only got a green and a red. I've seen these in multiple different styles of the XLs. And it's kind of like, isn't an XL an XL? Like, it should be all the same, right? It's not. They have one where the sight actually has a bar attached to it, and that bar is your windage there. And then you have other adjustability on top of that for, I guess, finer tuning adjustment for that part, etc., etc. There's a multi 3-pin, horizontal 3-pin version of this, and I'm kind of like, why? Other than, oh, well, you can have 3 at once, right? Just dial in. Start at 20, you're at 20, and then you're at whatever and whatever lines up in the end, right? So I'm kind of like, whatever. I don't care. I like the 2-pin version. It looks like 1 pin, but it's actually 2. And it sticks straight up, one solid piece, boof. So I got my 20 yards up top and whatever the second one is on the second marker that's on the bar. By the way, that bar, watch you don't mess with it because it could throw you off. Okay, so it's locked in tight right now from the factory where they set it. That's where we started with. We have this thing at 20 yards. Now we put the sight tape on, starting at the 20-yard mark. Now I got to go out and I got to start dialing this thing in, re-verifying 20 yards, and then 40, and then 60. Once I'm done, it's going to tell me what tape I'm going to need in the end. So we cut that one out of the package, and voila, we have our sight tape, and then we take off the sight in one, put the new one on, and we're done. And we just go and we re-verify all those settings, make sure all that's correct, which it should be, and then we're ready to go hunting, target shooting, participate in tournaments next year. Because this year I went to the tournament just to check things out, check out the club. Got to talk to the president of the club. He gave us a little bit of a tour of Laneway B, and it's all 3D archery. Both lanes actually are 3D archery. You got A lane and B. Anyway, so Andy showed us the layouts there last night. He kind of drew them out for us and whatnot, because we asked him, he said, well, what's down laneway A? Well, animals as well. Okay, cool. So we can have a lot of fun, and there's a lot of stuff to shoot, which is nice. So definitely going to be making a lot of trips out to the archery club over the next bit. I got my membership yesterday as well, so I'm good to go for that. So now I can go there anytime and shoot. But the Fast Eddie, as far as that goes, that was an interesting thing to assemble, and it's fine. I mean, you gotta assemble, you've gotta do things. So Andy helped us to put everything together, set it up on my bow. Then we went to his back lane that's indoors. He's got 20 yards there. Actually, he's got 10 to 20 yards, basically. But you start out at about 10 feet from the target, fire off a shot initially and figure out where you are, and then just start dialing and going back. And then we hit our 20 yards. We did have to drop the poundage on the bow though to 52. It was at 60, so now we're at 52, and it's fine. I'm perfect with it. And we finally got our dead bullseyes we were after. So it's like, yes, finally, after all that. But my first impressions of this site is it is really freaking nice. I mean, it's one thing to listen to a YouTuber, even myself, you know, but to have that experience yourself with this site, this is pretty cool. Once you get it all put together and you start getting things set, it's nice. So I'm sure it's going to get a whole hell of a lot nicer once I get it finally dialed in all the way to that 60-yard mark and get my full tape on there that I need. Because the advantages of these types of sites, whether it's a Fast Eddie or some other brand that maybe even a higher up version, whatever, these things are fabulous. And you know, a large vast majority of the guys that were shooting the tournament were using these sites, you know, and I can see why, because you know, you need to dial that yardage to get precision, to be precision, especially in a tournament. You need every advantage you can get, and the same when you're hunting, you need every advantage you can get. So you got to have a really good sight set up on there. Not saying there's anything wrong with these old things. They're fantastic if you get them set up too. But it's the in-between yardages that, unless you've compensated for that already, well, you're going to have a fun time teaching yourself to shoot in between the pins, and where in between the pins do you shoot to get that difference. Because you're only allowed a certain amount of fudge room at, say, 10 yards. Now, in my little shooting area out front, I've discovered that I have up to 2 to 3 yards plus or minus before things are affected or affected too much, okay? So with one of these sites, you don't worry about that. If you need 37 yards, you dial to 37 yards. Okay, if you need 32 yards, you dial to 32. If you need 16, you go to 16, and bang, 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 you're bang on. It almost feels like cheating in a sense, but it really isn't. So anyways, this is not a review at this point. Let me get this thing dialed in and set up, and we have a wonderful time with it. And I'm also going to ask Andy if we're allowed to video, like do YouTube videos when we're shooting at the club. I'm going to ask him if we're allowed to do that, and if we are, then I'll be definitely doing a bunch of 3D shoot videos for you guys on the channel, and seeing how skillful I become, because I'd like to go into the tournaments next year, because that would be a real blast, you know, and it's a really good day out. Like, we spent most of the day there anyways on Saturday, but it was a 2-day tournament, and so we didn't go day 2. We had other things we had to do, But day one was just a riot. We had a great time, and we took our own bows in the end, which I've told you guys on the other videos. And I got a chance to shoot at a 3D buck, which was fantastic, which also was with that bow and this sight. That's my Matthews Mission hammer. And yeah, 13, 26 yards, dead buck. But anyways, I will get back to you guys on this site, and we'll discuss more at another date once everything's done. And until then, thanks so much for watching and hanging out for this video. I know it was a bit long, but sorry. Anyways, see you in the next one.